Stand. It's Friday Night Live and we have got lots to talk about. And one of the big things we're going to be starting off with is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gone in the summer already? A lot of people have said, why have you not spoken about this? And to be honest with you, it's because I don't believe it's true. But, you know, it's a democracy, the United Stand. It can't just be driven by what I want to talk about. And actually, there are a lot of people out there from various different sources saying that no matter what, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is gone in the summer, even if we get Champions League football. So we'll talk about where that's coming from, what that means in a moment. Also, Paul Pogba's been back at Carrington today. When does that mean Pogba will be back, if at all? And a few other things as well. A bit of criticism for Martial again, which I want to address. Also, Jose Mourinho has said that if he gets top four with Spurs, it'll be better than when he got second with Manchester United, which he said was one of the biggest things he's ever done in his career. Is Jose talking crap again? Or is there any truth in that in this race for top four as Chelsea take on Spurs tomorrow? So lots and lots to discuss, but let's get straight into it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, is he gone already? Is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gone in the summer? Look, this has been rumbling around for the last 2 weeks. It started up on the winter break when we didn't have any games. And I think international breaks, winter breaks, slow news, you do start to get this sort of thing. But to be honest with you, and I will be honest, because I think that's the best policy, I've seen it on social media accounts. I've heard it from a couple of people, and I've heard it from friends who've heard it from a couple of people as well. And it is being said a lot that Manchester United, everyone knows Ole's gone in the summer. Some players know, journalists know, people in the club know, some big accounts know. Ole's gone in the summer, right? That is going round there from numerous people. It's not from me. I don't believe it's going to happen. It's from numerous people. So discuss. What do you think about that? Because I personally have said this before, and you know where I stand on this. I think if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gets top four, which is very, very possible, very, very possible, then he will stay in the job. But a lot of people are saying, no matter what, United have made their decision. He will go in the summer and that's what's going to happen. Maybe they'll keep him on in the role. Maybe they'll move him on. Maybe Solskjaer will walk, but he's gone. And some people have even gone as far as to say that actually, if you listen to Ole in his press conferences now, he knows he's gone. That's why he's talking like last night about the wind and the weather and the ball and stuff like that, because he knows he's gone and that's just it. I mean, what I would say is, and this is quite an interesting thing, it's been in the back of my mind for quite a while and I wanted to address it. You know how I say this is our worst season since 1989? Well, I say it every week and I have to be a little bit careful as to whether it actually is. So I actually did this morning just check something out. What is our worst ever Premier League season? And that was David Moyes. The year after we won the title, he got 64 points. Manchester United are currently on 38 points with 12 games to go. So we're 26 points off our worst ever Premier League season. 26 points with 12 games to go. That's 9 wins. So we need 9 wins from our last 12 just to beat our worst ever Premier League season. So we're not going to do that, are we? We might do that, but everything statistically, factually, evidentially will say United have got 0 chance of winning 9 games from their last 12. And to do that would be to just beat our worst ever Premier League season under David Moyes. So does that mean that we've had a bad season? Well, of course it does. And Manchester United Football Club could take that evidence and make a decision right now. They could do. And that's what I've been looking at today. How would Manchester United decide to get rid of Ole now, no matter what? And that is the only reason I can logically think that United would look at it, because I don't think we've got people at that club who understand football. So I don't think they would look at it like you might look at it and go, this coaching staff ain't the right coaching staff for United. They're never going to be the right coaching staff. Let's line somebody up. And if Ole gets top 4, it's a bonus, but he's gone in the summer anyway. That's a logic I could understand, but it's not a logic that exists at Manchester United. So maybe they would look at, Premier League's been running for 28 years. This is going to be our worst ever Premier League season. That's a reason to get rid of a manager no matter where we finish. And I must just say, 64 points would never get you top 4 normally. I think it's normally around 72 points. This year, I think 60 points could get you top 4. So we could have our worst ever Premier League season and get top 4. But the fact is, Manchester United are on course comfortably for their worst ever Premier League season. To beat it, we've got to take 26 points from our next 12 games, which is 9 wins from 12. And I don't think we're going to do that. So that is always a sobering thought for anybody who's saying give it time, maybe he can be here next year. But I think if United get 55 points and have the worst Premier League season ever, then, but if they get fourth place, I still think the club will keep him, and I'm interested to what you lot think. Will a director of football help secure signings without the allure of Champions League football? Top targets I'm referring to, such as Sancho, says Ray Cowley. And MUFC for Life says, I respect Ollie, however I've stated I didn't want him, but I backed him. If he does go, we must get this exciting manager called Julian Nagelsmann of RB Leipzig. Thank you for that. And Ollie outers have a long way to go because Ollie will be here for at least another year, says Jenks1102. I don't really like the term Ollie inners or Ollie outers, to be honest with you. I think it's a football opinion, and I respect football opinions. That's just the way I work. But in relation to what Ray says, will a director of football attract footballers to Manchester United? Well, it depends what sort of footballers you want. Just to answer that question very quickly, if you want a Di Maria, he will come to this club because he's a mercenary. If you want a Jadon Sancho will probably look beyond the money because Chelsea are going to offer Jadon Sancho amazing money. Liverpool, if they want Sancho, will offer him good money. They will also offer him Champions League football. I don't think Jadon Sancho comes to United just for the money if we're a club that's on the decline and we're not in the Champions League. So I hope that answers your question on that. But there always will be players that comes to Manchester United. They might not come for the right reasons. The top calibre player might not come here for the right reasons. Do you think Ollie would get a job at another Premier League club, top Championship club, if he got the sack? Says Peter Vegstein. Look, actually, Peter, to be honest with you, would Ole Gunnar Solskjaer get a job at any other Premier League club? I think he'd be struggling. I think he might get a job at a Norwich, but ultimately, let's not pretend he wouldn't get a job in the Championship. I think a Reading or a Sheffield Wednesday or someone like that might give him a job. I don't think a Premier League club would give him a job, though. And, take that or leave it. The reality is, I'll defend Ollie on this. He got this job because he played for this club. A sacked Cardiff manager and a Molde Championship manager from Norway is never getting a Manchester United job. There's loads of people. There's about 300 managers with the CV that Ollie's got, and they wouldn't get the job. But he got the job because he played for the club. That's why he got it. So whatever happens to Ollie if he ever gets the sack from United is somewhat irrelevant because he only got this job because he played for the club. And he got this job because he was an interim manager who was never meant to get the job, who went on an amazing run for 3 months, and everyone fell in love with this dream, including me. Thanks for the contribution, Crixus. So look, I think that I don't believe that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a decision has already been made. But there are a lot of people out there saying that there is. So what I want to see from the people in the live comments, or if you're not watching live, get it in the comments. Do you think, yes or no, United have already decided to sack Ole? Yes or no? Because for me, it's a no. Because what if we did go and win 9 of our next 12 games and we will play better football because we've got Bruno and we get Champions League football? Do you think they're going to sack him? Never in a million years. These are the same board members who brought a manager in December after Jose had been sacked, categorically stated we will not be pushed into a decision. We're going to wait until the summer. 3 months later, Ollie's at the wheel, everyone's on the bus, and they give him the job. So I don't believe a word that Manchester United have already decided in mid-February that Ollie's going to get sacked no matter what. If he goes on a great run, they'll be back on the bus saying, see you later, Poch, we've got Ollie at the wheel. So I don't believe for a second that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is out of a job no matter what. But, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of people agreeing with me with no, but there are a few yeses in there that think he's gone as well. So, but I would say 70% are with me saying that, he's not definitely gone yet. And I think that's something I would say as well. I don't know because nobody's categorically told me he's gone in the summer no matter what. But there are people out there saying it. And as I said a couple of days ago, I think these people are guessing. Because if you're asking me, will Ole Gunnar Solskjaer be Manchester United manager in August? I'd say there's about a 25% chance. Because of the results we've had and what's likely to happen based on the real results we've had already. So I just think people are predicting that he's going to go because there's a good chance he's going to go, and then they're pretending that they know he's gone no matter what, when actually they don't have a bloody clue. That's what I think's going on. And he may well go, but I don't think he's definitely gone. That's where I think in relation to that. If Ollie goes, Nagelsmann's got to come in, says Dinky Man. I don't think we're even looking at Nagelsmann. I personally think it will be Pochettino. Or quite interestingly, Allegri's been talking again today. He was in Paris. He's confirmed that he wasn't in Paris to talk about a PSG job. He was there about his book, but he has said he can't have another September out of a job because he'll get too used to being retired. So Allegri's definitely looking for a job, and I wouldn't count Allegri out of the conversation if United move away from Solskjaer. But I don't think United, I would say if United do sack Ollie, it will be Pochettino or Allegri, and then way behind them will be people like Van der Beek and not Van der Beek. He could be a good player manager, Ten Hag and Nagelsmann. I don't think United would look at a manager like that, although I wish we would. I've always said I'd like us to go for the next big thing. I would like us to be going for Pochettino from Southampton rather than Pochettino from Spurs. I would like us to be going for Klopp from Dortmund rather than a Klopp from Liverpool. I want us to go and get the next big thing who comes to United and becomes the next big thing, not a manager that's already a big thing, if you know what I mean. Bahar is the best. Check him out on YouTube, says Shady Abenazer. Don't know what you're on about. But based on last comment, managers, director of football can attract players despite no Champions League. Do you think the media mentioned director of football could bring them in, says Ray Cowley. I think the director of football that we're potentially looking at isn't one I would be looking at, to be honest. The one that was formerly of PSG. Deck Roberts says Our football is awful. Players don't pass and move or run in behind. They just pass and stand still. We score by other teams making mistakes, or we hit teams on the break. Must be down to the coaching. Deck, you're absolutely spot on. I don't think it's going to be shocking news to anybody. I think many of you have said this before, that tactically this season it has been subpar. And look at the game last night against Club Brugge. We score because of a mistake. Look at the game against Chelsea on Monday. We score from a set piece and we score from a good goal from Wan-Bissaka and Anthony Martial. But that doesn't happen that often. A lot of the time, we don't. The reality is, if you watch a team like a Man City or a Leicester or even a Chelsea, they might not score and they might lose a lot of games, but they do create chances. I've seen Chelsea lose so many games this season where they've missed so many chances. I remember them losing at Goodison Park. They had like 80% possession in the first half. They had loads of chances. Against us the other night, they had loads of chances. They might not take those chances, but they do create chances. We don't create many chances. And it's interesting because Ben Thornley, who's an ex-United player, I think he was actually around the time of the class of 92 and he had a nasty injury. He could have been a really good player for United. And I'm not shouting him out here. Loads of people have said this. I've heard Scholes saying it recently. Gary Neville said it. A lot of people have said it about Martial. And what he said is the goal against Chelsea, the header, he's got that quality. He can score with both feet, but he goes missing in games. And I think this is just such a myth. I really do. And I respect anybody's opinion. But also the point about respecting an opinion is that you can have a contrary opinion. And I think touching in with what was said there by Deck about the tactics, I think it's just so easy for people to have an agenda against a player and say, oh, Martial goes missing in games. But you can't have one and not the other. You can't sit there and say United don't create enough chances, they play too defensively, they only ever score from mistakes or individual brilliance, and then say Martial goes missing in games. Like, we don't create the chances for Martial. That's the problem. And we've seen that this week. If Martial doesn't score from that mistake last night because Club Brugge don't make a mistake, and he doesn't score that worldy header against Chelsea, he scores no goals and everyone's like, Martial's crap again. Because that's what's been happening for the last few weeks. Martial doesn't get any service. So if he doesn't benefit from a mistake, or he doesn't come out with a world-class finish from that one chance that he gets, he doesn't do anything in a game. And that's basically been the problem with our strikers. And that's why Ighalo, in that half an hour he had last night, just didn't look very good, because he doesn't get the service. And I do think we have a responsibility as fans to actually address the real issue, which is the lack of chances created by our side. If Martial missed 4 or 5 sitters, I'd be like going, I ain't good enough. But we don't create the sitters, and that's going to be the problem for someone like Ighalo, who isn't a Martial. Martial's a player that can create something out of nothing. Rashford's the same. Ighalo, I haven't really seen him play for 4 years, but at Watford, he wasn't really a player that creates something out of nothing. So he's going to be dependent on service, and that is what United need to have. Gordon Murray, this board isn't a board that plans, it's a board that reacts. If they planned, they'd have had a top director of football ages ago, and also they'd have a top-class manager with a philosophy. Ollie isn't sacked yet, says Gordon Murray. I agree with you on that one, he isn't sacked yet. Ray Cowley, Pogba go, stay, debatable, but could he stay now Bruno's signing following in the summer with decent signings, says Ray Cowley. I'll talk about Pogba in a moment, Ray. And Mr. Glenn Johnson says, as long as we get top 6, I think Ollie should continue for another year. Restarting the process again will cost us another season, 4-year plan, not 2. It's a theory. It's a theory, Mr. Glenn Johnson. I personally think if he doesn't get Champions League football, I've probably seen enough for me that I wouldn't have a problem with him being sacked. I've seen enough. If he gets top 4, I think he will stay. PMV Patrick, thank you for the contribution there. On Paul Pogba, let me just come back on that point there from Ray about Paul Pogba. So Paul Pogba drove into Carrington today. He has been being driven in. Obviously, he's got an ankle injury, but he drove his car into Carrington today, did Paul Pogba. So there is some discussion again as to when Paul Pogba might be back for Manchester United. I still think Paul Pogba will be back around start to mid of March. So that would be, we've got Watford, Club Brugge, Everton, Derby, Man City. I think he might get back for the sort of Derby stroke Man City game. Derby County stroke Man City, because I know Man City's a derby, that might confuse some people. But it's interesting because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did say at the start of January that Pogba would be back around the start of February. So Pogba, as I said in the preview this morning, if you haven't seen that, he has sort of spoken himself about, I'll be back when I'm ready to come back. I don't want to get up a secondary injury. And I did upset a few people because I said he's putting France before United. I'll say it again, he's putting France before United. And I don't necessarily see why people don't see that. He's missed most of this season. If he rushes himself back now and gets a secondary injury again like he did in December, he'll probably miss the Euros. Pogba loves playing for France. He absolutely loves playing for France. So Pogba wants to play in the Euros. The world will be watching. This is where he can get his dream move. So Pogba's motivation right now will be, I want to play in the Euros for France. And I think that's why he's taken a little bit longer. Because if he got himself back now, like McTominay has for United, and then he gets another injury and it's 3 months out, he'll miss the Euros. So I think Pogba is making sure that he's fully ready to come back for United. And that is his right. You know, not every player has to bust the gut to get back for United. And I don't think Pogba is. And I don't think that's a critical thing. I genuinely think now we're in that, as I said, we're in that red zone where whoever you are, Bruno Fernandes for Portugal, Harry Maguire for England, whoever, if you go and get yourself a calf injury or an ankle injury or a ligament injury now, you probably put yourself out of the Euros. So Pogba, in a position where he's not playing every week, he's probably thinking, right, I've got to come back, but I want to come back when I know I'm fully fit. Do you think our lack of creativity will make our strikers more clinical and could benefit us when a good manager takes charge, says Vicky J.R. Nash. I think when you don't have as many chances, you are more clinical, Vicky. I think you're absolutely spot on. But then I think it's a mindset. If you're Sergio Aguero, and you know statistically you're going to get 4 or 5 chances a game because you play for Man City, I think sometimes you aren't as clinical because you know there's another chance coming. It's a bit like going to the bus stop, isn't it, in the morning? You know, if you know there's only one bus at 7:05 and it takes you 3 minutes to walk from your house to the bus, you will make sure you leave your house at 7 o'clock every day to give you 2 minutes spare. If you know there's another bus coming up in a couple of minutes after that, you might leave at 3 minutes past and think, if I make it, I make it. If I don't. And I think that, you're right, I think United strikers at the moment know they've got to take their chance. Whereas if you're in a better team, you're a little bit more relaxed, which can mean you're not as clinical. Nick P says, I'm slightly worried for Bruno. He's such a good player. I just hope he doesn't end up running around trying to do everything like Sanchez tried to do. The thing about Bruno is, and some people said you're being overconfident, you've never seen him in the Premier League. There's just some players that you know absolutely are quality, and he is quality, and I just don't think that's going to drop off. And I've mentioned people like Mkhitaryan, Kagawa, even Mata to a certain extent, Alexis Sanchez. They were all exciting signings, but as soon as they started, you were waiting for them to bed in. A bit like Fred, you were waiting for them to bed in. With Bruno, we're not waiting for anything. He's one of those players who just goes straight in and plays well. I think we've got an absolute star player there. For me, he's one of our most important players. Oh, actually, that reminds me, make sure tomorrow, a lot of people have been asking about this. I started it last week. It's called the United Stand Chart Show, Top 10 Players of the Week. Fred was number 1 last week, recorded it this afternoon. It goes out tomorrow lunchtime. It's a bit like a blast from the past, really, because you used to have on ITV when I was growing up the chart show for music on a Saturday morning. We've now got the United Stand Chart Show. That's out tomorrow. All I'll do as a spoiler is say there's a couple of new entries. One of them goes straight in at number 3, so look, watch out for that. Jermaine Decray says Mitzi Bashwai missed at least 3 clear-cut chances against us. Imagine if we created that much chances for Martial. And I think you're absolutely right, Jermaine, there. That's the problem with Manchester United at the moment, is that we don't create chances. And I think you're right. I think if Martial got chances, Dan James got chances, Bruno got chances, they'd score these goals. But the saddest thing about it is that why can't we implement a style of play that creates chances? Like, why can't we do that? It's not like Chelsea are conceding 4 goals at the expense of creating chances. Liverpool as well. They don't create. They keep clean sheets, but they create loads of chances. It's a style of play. It's a style of play that's very boring. And, you know, we've all been saying it for a long time. I just wish Ollie would go on the front foot a little bit more. But when you're playing 5 at the back, it's hard to create chances anyway, because you haven't got you're balanced on the defence and not on the attack. But with Club Brugge, they're Belgian title holders, whatever, but they played the better football, and that's what I'm fed up of. We sometimes do win these games, but pound to a penny of shit, we often come out of a match and say we were the worst footballing side. I said it after beating Chelsea. We deserved to beat Chelsea, but the easiest team to watch on the eye was definitely Chelsea. And I wish we... That's the thing. It's not... Manchester United has never been just about winning. It's about winning well. And there's a lot of clubs like that, but for Manchester United, that's very important. Entertain your fans. Sir Alex Ferguson said it. Your first job is to entertain these fans. And we haven't really done that for 6 years. And it's not just Ollie, it's a few managers. You should be able to implement a style of play that entertains the fans. And I think that's so important, because what ends up happening is you're watching a game like on the watch-along, we're talking about a favourite packet of crisps, because even when we do score, it's like wham, bam, thank you, man. Quick attack, goal. Yeah, 1-0. Right, we've got to sit back and watch us defend for 20 minutes. Oh, we're on the attack again. Oh, we've scored 2-0. Now we're going to defend for 20 minutes again. There's no sustained pressure. And I think that's a big part of football, isn't it? That excitement. The shot that hits the post, the corner that hits the bar. Oh, we're still on the attack. The shot that goes wide. Oh, we've scored now. You know, you want lots of chances. Hi Mark, yes I believe they have a gentleman's agreement in place with Poch. Poch is talking like he knows he will be in the Premier League next year, but with this board anything could happen come May, says Anthony Griffiths. So going back to what we were talking about at the start of the show, is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out of a job already no matter what? And I think Anthony's probably about right there. I do think that United, similarly to when Van Gaal won the FA Cup and Mourinho was out of a job, there has been discussions with Pochettino. I think only an idiot would think that hasn't been the case. There may well have been conversations with Allegri and a couple of other managers. It doesn't mean that they're our manager. But I just think that if Ollie does manage to get top 4, we will keep him. And that's what's probably been said to Pochettino. You are one of our top targets if we don't get top 4. But if we do, you're going to go. Also, I just want to bring Jose Mourinho in here as well. He's come out and said that Manchester United, when they finished second, was one of his biggest achievements of his career, considering he's won Champions Leagues, he's won titles all over the world. He said that when we finished second, that was one of the biggest achievements of his career. I always thought that was bollocks, I've got to be honest with you, because we finished second, but we were 20-something points behind Man City. And we weren't clear second. It was quite close between second and fourth, if I remember. But he thought it was great what he did, and I didn't. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was by any means some great achievement. He's now said that if he gets top 4 with Spurs, it will eclipse what he did with Manchester United. And I think this is just mind games from Jose. I think everything Jose does is mind games. I think he's a very manipulative, self-centred individual, and that can be very entertaining to our ears, but I don't believe what he's talking about here. Harry Kane's out injured and Son's out injured, and they score a lot of his goals, so that means that if they get top 4 it's a miracle. Well, Spurs have got top 4 most seasons out of the last 5, and you're not playing every game with 9 men, and you're literally, if you don't lose to Chelsea tomorrow, you'll be one of the favourites for top 4, and also you're about to get knocked out of the Champions League when everyone else is going to be playing Thursday, Sunday, or Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, or Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. So I think Mourinho's trying to play games here because he knows what I believe, that Spurs should be one of the favourites for top 4. And, I think United are one of the favourites now because of the way things gone, and there's no doubt that Spurs are weaker now that they don't have Kane and Son. But we haven't had Pogba all season. Like, I know we've bought Bruno now, but we haven't had Pogba all season. We haven't had Rashford for a large part of this season now, and we didn't have Martial at the start of the season. So Chelsea, they've had a load of injuries this season as well. So I think it's mind games from Jose. I think it's excuses from Jose because I don't think Spurs are going to get top 4. If you're asking me who's going to get top 4, I think tomorrow's game between Chelsea and Spurs at 12:30 is massive. In fact, it's so big, I'm going to do a watch along on Mark Goldbridge's That's Football, so make sure you join me at 12:30 tomorrow for that. But I think Chelsea will get the result, and I think Chelsea will still be the team that is the hard team to get the top 4 spot. I think it's between Chelsea and United, if I'm absolutely honest, and I think Chelsea will benefit from being knocked out of the Champions League because I think they will lose to Bayern Munich, of course. I think that's absolutely inevitable. What striker would you take in the summer if Ollie is still there, says Jamie Simons. Well, that does lead quite seamlessly into something I was going to talk about, Jamie, actually. It's something I saw yesterday and I've seen it again today, that Moussa Dembele is apparently interested in coming to Manchester United. Again, it's a Chelsea link. Chelsea interested in Moussa Dembele from Lyon, a striker. But I mean, look, I would love Timo Werner, and I know Timo Werner is a good player for Manchester United. I think we all know that, and I think that not for RB Leipzig, but I think he probably will go to Liverpool, and I think Liverpool will be a far better team because of that. But I would like Timo Werner because Timo Werner can play off the left, he can play off the right, and he can play down the middle, and I think that is what Manchester United need to do in the summer. And I don't know what you lot think, but I think Manchester United in the summer need a striker. I don't think they need a striker who just plays as a number 9, because I think Anthony Martial, in very difficult circumstances, I think that Anthony Martial has done a good job as a number 9. His stats this season are quite good. I think he's got something like 14 goals in 30 games and 5 assists. There's nothing wrong with that in a team where he's not creating many chances. So I think Martial's done a good job, and I think, as many people have said, Anthony Martial in a better team with better creations will be a good number 9. What I think United need, and I'd love to think we're going to get Jadon Sancho, but I think United need a player that can play right, left and centre. So Rashford is better off the left, but he can play up front. Martial, I think, wants to play up the front, but he can play off the left. Dan James can play right and left. Sancho comes in and can play right and left. I think we need a striker who can play striker and right. That's what we need. Or a striker who can play all 3 positions. I think that's what Manchester United need. I don't think we need an out-and-out striker. Now, some people will totally disagree with me on that. A lot of people talking about Jimenez from Wolves. I really like Jimenez, and that would be an out-and-out striker who gives us something different. And I think Jimenez is sort of going down the Erling Haaland route, who again, we change our plans and go, yeah, Martial, you've done really well, but next season you're going to be playing off the left and up front because we bought this striker who's going to play up front. I think it'd be a waste of Martial's apprenticeship, really, because this has been his first season playing up front in a very hard team. So I've got a lot of time for Anthony Martial as our future number 9. I think he's had to battle really hard this season. His work off the ball, his hold-up play, and he has matured over the season. So I think it'd be a shame for us to go and buy an out-and-out number 9. Moussa Dembele could be interesting off the bench, a little bit of competition. But I would like... look, Timo Werner would be ideal because he can play a number of positions. Sean Miller. Hi, Mark. I go to uni in the States and met a girl who transferred from Manchester. If she's a Red, do you know where I can get a ring? Cheers, mate. Sean Miller. I don't know, mate. I don't know. And Sean Finity. Do you think it's more than a coincidence that successive managers have talked United football but not trusted their squad to actually play it over time? Look, I do coaching. A lot of you do coaching, and I'm doing a coaching class in the morning, and we won a game last week. So tomorrow morning, the weaknesses that we had were we probably didn't look up and get our heads up for passes, and also we were a bit weak in the 50-50s. So tomorrow we're going to work on that. I think, as I've said before, Rochdale manager, Derby County manager, they will have a philosophy of how they want to play. I think this myth that United managers can't play the way they want to play because they haven't got the players is a nonsense. You will see teams in League One playing a Poundland version of Man City's version, where it's pass and move in triangles. These players we've got at our club, whether you think they're crap or not, a lot of them are on between 50 and 150 grand a week. So getting them to play pass and move football with triangles and possession and attack and creating chances, it comes down to coaching. It does. And I think what we're seeing with Bruno isn't coaching, it's just a player who's very, very good. It's like dropping, and I'm not saying Bruno's Messi, but basically if you drop Messi into United's team, doesn't matter how defensive the tactics are, he's going to create something because he's a good player. And I think that's what we see in this United team. Lots of you say it. We either score from individual brilliance or a mistake. The individual brilliance comes from people like Rashford or Martial and Bruno now, and they can get you goals. But I don't think it's coming from good technique on the pitch or anything like that. I mean, look, it's very unfair to say that was the United coaching session, but I was watching MUTV or something yesterday, and basically there was a circle with poles, right? And Fred was one of the people holding the balls, but there was a few people stood behind these poles. And then people who weren't stood behind the poles were running to each pole. Fred would throw the ball that side of the pole. Matic would head it back into his hands, then run to somebody else who'd throw them the ball, and they'd head it back there. And the gap's like that. And I'm like, they've set up a circle for players to run round the pit, run round, have the ball thrown to them, and head it back into somebody's hands. And I'm like, that's like, I've seen some of the passing things that people do in training. Why are we not doing that sort of thing? And maybe we are, but it's worrying that MUTV are putting out as doing that sort of stuff, because it only adds to this feeling that our coaching isn't good enough. And we will be doing stuff around, breaking the play and breaking the lines, and even simple things like two in a square with 3 passes and all that lot, 2 against 3 with a goalkeeper and all that. We should all be doing that, but it's not being implemented in the game, and that is a confusion. Just like there is expected goals ratio, there should be goal efficiency ratio. I can assure you Martial would be top of the league. Yeah, well, look, you can find those sort of things quite easy, how many chances are created, etc. It's quite easy to do. Timo Werner is a next Rashford. We need an aerial presence. Says Jelani Jeffers. Yeah, I think we do need an aerial presence, but I don't think it's absolutely essential with United, because you've got to get the right player. That's what you've got to get. You've got to get the right player in at Manchester United. Erling Haaland would have been perfect. We obviously need to move on from that. But we're not a team that really does whip high crosses into the box anyway, and we're not a team that really hits many long balls, and we don't need to be a team like that. I mean, look, Manchester City, realistically, they should have a Champions League. They should. I feel like they've bottled it, because over the last 3 or 4 years, Man City have been one of the best teams in Europe and have consistently been the best or the second best team in England. Man City don't have a long ball option. Man City don't have a striker over 6 foot. They don't. And they don't even have an option like that. Man City, the only time they're going to put a ball in the box is from a corner where they can send their centre-backs forward. They don't play high balls. So, and Liverpool, Mane, Firmino, Salah, Wijnaldum, they're not particularly big. So you don't need this big option. I think it's a bit archaic to say we need that Fellaini option. Well, that never worked out that well for us. I mean, I know he caused a bit of chaos, but it wasn't really. I think you've got to have a system, and you've got to have the. I think for a long time, and I used to say it about Pep and Klopp, they haven't got a plan B. If you deal with plan A, they haven't got a plan B. But their plan A has become so efficient that you can't stop it. So I think United need to establish an effective plan A. We know what our plan A is. It's counter-attacking football without creating many chances. That's That's not a tactic. That's not something that's going to make us one of the best teams in England. I think United need to find that first. Therefore, instead of looking for these the long ball option, we need a striker who's good in the air. Well, that's not the way we want to play. I think establish the way you want to play and sort your team out around that before you start finding plan B options. Who can we sign now that Haaland is gone and Werner looks like he's going to Liverpool, says Prani Kapoor. I've got to be honest with you, I haven't really researched loads of strikers, but we've already mentioned a few in here. If you can't get Timo Werner, I think you could get a Jimenez from Wolves. I think he is available. And he's not all about height. He's got a lot more to his game. He's quite quick. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's creative. So I think that there are options out there in relation to strikers. But United need to be looking at that. And Moussa Dembele was another player that we mentioned from Lyon, and he is definitely a player that United are looking at. If Ollie gets top 4, he deserves to keep his job, says Orlando Anglin. And I think that will be the case. I do. Contrary to what everybody else thinks, I think that will be the case. Why do you need Ollie gone so bad? Because even Sir Alex was given time to build his team. Why not give Ollie the change, says Claude Apiekibu. Well, that's an opinion, Claude. That is an opinion. I mean, some people will say to you that Sir Alex Ferguson had a CV, he had a style of play. Ollie doesn't have any of those, but if you think he deserves more time, you go for it. Belotti, please, says Grandad33, maybe a couple of years ago. And if we get Poch, you reckon Harry Kane is an option, says Jamie Simmons? No, definitely not. Not now Mourinho's at Spurs. They won't let that happen. Never in a million years. What about Dennis from Bruges, says Marky? Well, look, one decent game against Man United doesn't make a player, but Dennis from Bruges is just another. It's just another quick sort of like what we've got. I mean, I don't really know enough about him that he'd ever be a consideration for me, but let's just say he was good enough. I wouldn't have a massive problem with him because he can play across the front three. And I think that's what we should be looking for, somebody who can play across the front three. I do think we should be looking at that. So a 2-team Serie A flop who found his level in the Portuguese pub league is their new saviour, says Don Long. I think he's talking about Bruno Fernandes, and he's a prat. Obviously doesn't know much about football. And get back on the Red Bull. Gabriel Jesus to Man United after UEFA ban, says Jelko. I'm not a big fan of Jesus, to be honest. No. Jovic, I think, would be a decent signing if we could get him away from Real Madrid. Gulzar. And the manager is not the problem. Woodward and co are, says Ray Cowley. There's still a lot of people out there who are firmly behind Ollie and want him to be given a chance. All I will repeat to you is what I said at the start of this video. And I think people should be aware of this. Our worst ever Premier League season in 28 years was David Moyes' 64 points. We have got 38 points. We have been averaging 1.4 points a game. We've got 12 games left. That's 18 points onto 38 if we keep doing what we're doing, which would be 56 points, which would be 8 points less than our worst ever Premier League season. To beat 64 points, we need to win 9 out of the next 12, which is... Can we do that? 9 wins out of the next 12 to beat our worst ever Premier League season. We are going to be comfortably under the points total of our worst ever Premier League season. It might still get us top 4, but we will be comfortably underneath it. That might be something for Manchester United to take into account, because what can't speak, can't lie. Every Premier League season has been 38 games. If we're under our worst ever Premier League season, that is a problem, no matter what you say. Thanks everyone for watching. Please do smash a like on the video. And remember, tomorrow morning we've got the United Stand Chart show. Love this show. Make sure you watch it. And I will be live at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. I'm also doing at 12:30 tomorrow, Chelsea versus Spurs watch along, which is a massive game for us United fans. We desperately need, I would say, a draw in that. But very interesting game anyway, because there are two major rivals now for top 4. But United Chart show will be going up in the morning. Join me for Chelsea Spurs on That's Football if you haven't subscribed there. and smash a like on here. We're nearly at 1,000 likes. But thanks everyone for watching. I love the Friday night show, and we've had some really fast-paced conversation there. So thanks everyone. Enjoy the start to your weekend.